Former President Donald Trump is back in the political arena. His signature issue? Immigration, a topic that has always been at the forefront of his political agenda. Trump's re-emergence is centered around a deeply divisive plan that has already started to stir the pot in Washington and beyond. He is advocating for mass deportations on an unprecedented scale, a move that has left many in shock and disbelief. This ambitious proposal marks a return to the hardline immigration rhetoric that defined his presidency, reigniting old debates and controversies. It has ignited a firestorm of debate across the nation, with people from all walks of life weighing in on the issue, raising questions about its legality, feasibility, and morality. Legal experts are already dissecting the plan, trying to understand its implications. Trump, never one to shy away from controversy, has doubled down on his commitment to drastically reduce the number of undocumented immigrants in the United States, despite the backlash. He argues that this is essential for national security and economic prosperity, claiming that it will protect American jobs and resources. His critics, however, view the plan as a dangerous and inhumane attack on vulnerable populations, arguing that it will tear families apart and create widespread fear. The announcement has sent shockwaves through immigrant communities, many of whom are now living in a state of heightened anxiety. Many of whom live with the constant fear of deportation, a fear that has only intensified with Trump's latest declaration. Advocacy groups are bracing for a protracted legal battle, preparing to fight tooth and nail to protect the rights of immigrants. Vowing to challenge the policy in court, these groups are mobilizing resources and rallying support from across the country. The stage is set for a high-stakes showdown over one of the most contentious issues in American society, with both sides gearing up for a fierce battle. The nation watches with bated breath as this unfolding drama promises to reshape the landscape of immigration policy for years to come, leaving an indelible mark on the country's future. Trump's plan is nothing short of audacious. He envisions a deportation operation unlike any seen before in American history, aiming to remove millions of undocumented immigrants from the country. The scale of this undertaking is staggering, dwarfing previous deportation efforts by several orders of magnitude. The plan's initial focus will be on individuals deemed a threat to national security or public safety. This includes convicted criminals and suspected terrorists. However, the scope of the plan extends far beyond these groups, encompassing a vast swath of the undocumented population. Critics argue that this broad targeting will inevitably ensnare innocent people, tearing apart families and communities. They fear that the plan will create a climate of fear and suspicion, driving immigrants further into the shadows. The logistical challenges of such a massive undertaking are immense. The government would need to mobilize vast resources, including personnel, transportation, and detention facilities. The cost of the operation would be astronomical, likely running into the billions of dollars. To execute his ambitious plan, Trump has assembled a team of immigration hardliners, individuals who share his vision and are ready to take bold actions. Leading the charge is Homan, a veteran immigration official known for his uncompromising stance on enforcement. Homan has a long history with immigration and customs enforcement, where he built a reputation for being tough and relentless. Homan, who previously served as acting director of immigration and customs enforcement, has been appointed as the border czar, tasked with overseeing the deportation operation. His experience and no-nonsense approach make him a formidable figure in this role. Joining Homan is Kristi, the current governor of South Dakota, who has been tapped as the new Secretary of Homeland Security. Noem has been a vocal supporter of Trump's policies and brings her own brand of leadership to the table. Noem, a staunch Trump ally, has a track record of supporting restrictive immigration policies. Her tenure as governor has been marked by a strong emphasis on law and order, aligning perfectly with Trump's vision. Her appointment signals a sharp rightward turn for the Department of Homeland Security, indicating a more aggressive stance on immigration enforcement. Homan and Noem are cut from the same cloth. Both are unwavering in their belief that mass deportation is necessary to protect American citizens and uphold the rule of law. Their shared philosophy ensures a unified approach to the challenges ahead. They have dismissed concerns about the plan's feasibility and potential for human rights abuses, arguing that the ends justify the means. Both have stated that the safety and security of the nation are their top priorities. Their appointments have been met with alarm by immigrant advocates who fear that they will prioritize enforcement over due process and compassion. Critics argue that their approach could lead to widespread fear and uncertainty within immigrant communities. The selection of Homan and Noem underscores Trump's determination to pursue his immigration agenda with unwavering zeal. Their leadership marks a significant shift in the administration's approach, promising a more stringent and unyielding enforcement of immigration laws. The sheer scale of Trump's deportation plan presents a logistical nightmare. The government would need to locate, apprehend, detain, and deport millions of people scattered across the country. This would require an unprecedented mobilization of resources and manpower. One of the biggest challenges would be identifying and locating undocumented immigrants. Unlike citizens and legal residents, undocumented immigrants are not required to register with the government, making it difficult to track their whereabouts. Apprehending and detaining millions of people would also strain the capacity of law enforcement agencies. ICE, the agency responsible for immigration enforcement, is already stretched thin. The plan would likely necessitate the hiring of thousands of new agents, a costly and time-consuming process. Even if the government could overcome these hurdles, it would still face the daunting task of deporting millions of people. This would require securing transportation, coordinating with foreign governments, and navigating a complex web of legal procedures. Section 5. Economic tremors. The potential fallout of a depleted workforce. Beyond the moral and legal implications, Trump's plan carries significant economic risks. The mass deportation of undocumented workers could have a devastating impact on certain industries, particularly those that rely heavily on immigrant labor. Agriculture is one sector that would be hit particularly hard. Undocumented immigrants make up a substantial portion of the agricultural workforce, especially in crop production. Their removal would lead to labor shortages, potentially causing food prices to rise and harming the economy. The construction, hospitality, and service industries also rely heavily on immigrant labor. Mass deportations would disrupt these sectors, leading to job losses, business closures, and a decline in economic activity. Moreover, undocumented immigrants contribute significantly to the U.S. economy through their consumption and tax payments. Their removal would result in a loss of tax revenue and a decrease in consumer spending, further hampering economic growth. Section 6. A militarized border, the expanding role of the armed forces. To bolster his deportation force, Trump has floated the idea of deploying the military to the U.S.-Mexico border. This controversial proposal would represent a significant escalation in the government's immigration enforcement efforts. It has sparked fierce debate about the appropriate role of the military in domestic affairs. Proponents of the plan argue that the military is necessary to secure the border and deter illegal immigration. They point to the military's logistical capabilities and manpower as assets that could be used to enhance border security. Opponents, however, warn that deploying the military to the border would be a dangerous overreach of executive power. They argue that it would militarize the border region, creating a climate of fear and intimidation. They also express concern about the potential for human rights abuses if soldiers are tasked with law enforcement duties. The use of the military for domestic law enforcement is highly controversial and subject to legal restrictions. The Posse Comitatus Act, a federal law passed in 1878, generally prohibits the use of the military for domestic law enforcement purposes. Section 7. Legal and moral crossroads, navigating the complex terrain of human rights. Trump's mass deportation plan is fraught with legal and moral challenges. The plan has sparked widespread debate and controversy, drawing attention from both national and international human rights organizations. Critics argue that it violates fundamental human rights and undermines the rule of law. They point out that such actions could set a dangerous precedent, eroding the protections that have been established over decades. They have vowed to challenge the plan in court, setting the stage for a protracted legal battle. This legal confrontation is expected to involve numerous appeals and could potentially reach the Supreme Court. One of the main legal obstacles is the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which guarantees due process of law to all persons within the United States, regardless of their immigration status. This amendment is a cornerstone of American legal principles and serves as a critical check on government power. This means that the government cannot simply round up and deport undocumented immigrants without affording them certain legal protections. These protections include the right to a fair hearing and the opportunity to present their case before an impartial judge. Another legal hurdle is the Administrative Procedure Act, which requires federal agencies to follow certain procedures when making and implementing new policies. This act ensures that any new policy is subject to public scrutiny and legal review. Critics argue that the Trump administration has failed to follow these procedures in its rush to implement its deportation plan. They claim that the administration's actions have been hasty and lack the necessary transparency and accountability. Beyond the legal challenges, the plan raises serious moral questions about the treatment of immigrants and the values of American society. It forces us to confront our collective conscience and consider what kind of nation we want to be. Critics argue that it is cruel and inhumane to uproot people from their homes and families and deport them to countries they may barely remember. They emphasize the emotional and psychological toll on individuals and communities, urging for a more compassionate approach to immigration policy. Section 8, Echoes of the Past, Shadows of the Future. A Nation Divided. Trump's mass deportation plan has reopened old wounds and deepened divisions in American society. It has sparked protests and demonstrations across the country, with people taking to the streets to express their outrage and fear. The plan has also drawn condemnation from international human rights organizations, which have accused the Trump administration of violating international law. The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights has called the plan an affront to the human rights of migrants everywhere. The plan's impact on U.S. foreign relations is uncertain, but it has the potential to strain relations with Mexico and other Latin American countries. Mexico has already condemned the plan, with President Andrés Manuel López Obrador calling it unacceptable. The debate over Trump's mass deportation plan is a microcosm of the larger debate over immigration in the United States. It reflects deep divisions within American society over national identity, economic opportunity, and the rule of law. The outcome of this debate will have profound consequences for the future of the United States.